Hello, my name is Margaret Adele, and welcome to a video that I should have put out a while ago, and I'm surprised I didn't. But today we are going to talk about how to get into reading indie books. Now, I'm going to warn you right now, this is something that will take a little bit of effort on your part to really dive into, and it might take a little bit of money. Unlike traditional books, indie books aren't as prevalent in libraries. And while you can ask for them or request the library to buy them, you also have to, research beforehand what books you'd like them to add. But I would definitely suggest, if you know that your library has a request policy where you can request books be added, definitely use that and then check them out when they're in there to show the library that yes, they should invest in these indie books. But let's jump right in with the 3 different avenues you can use to start learning more about indie books. Now, the first one is probably the best one to get into the culture of indie books in general, and that is Twitter. I know it sounds really simple, but honestly, using one of the hashtags for the indie community on Twitter is a super easy way to jump right in. Hashtags like indie authors or indie books be seen, or for this month, indie August. They also have an indie December, cute, right? So there's a bunch of hashtags, and these are very, very well trafficked hashtags. Indie authors are Twitter fiends for the most part, and they are really dedicated to getting their work out there. So if you're interested in purchasing indie books, all you pretty much have to do is send out a tweet, say what kind of genres or age ranges you're looking for using the hashtags, and sit and wait. Now, I will warn you, if you call the indie authors, they will come. They will come by the dozens, and they will fill that thread with a cajillion tweets with links to their books. And a lot of them, a fairly large portion, won't even be the genre you asked for. It'll be someone just kind of shooting their shot and hoping that it'll be something you're interested in regardless. But for the most part, this is the easiest way to just get a whole ton of information at once. The biggest downside is that Twitter is not made for that kind of interaction, and a lot of comments tend to get lost. So this needs to be a Twitter thread that you are keeping some amount of tabs on. Otherwise, there will probably end up several tweets that just kind of float into the void because the reply system is just jacked on that site. But in general, the online indie author community is very, very dedicated and is very friendly and very supportive. This is also the avenue that I would suggest you use if you are a booktuber looking to get indie arcs or indie review copies. Same basic premise. Put out that you are a booktuber, the genres you read, and that you are willing to give a review and wait and let them come. I would suggest, if you do this, that you have some kind of review policy, even if it's super simplistic. I'll have mine down in the description below, and mine's a little bit longish, it's like 3 pages, but I've had like over a dozen indie review copies sent to me, so I feel like I'm at the point where I really should. So you need to have a general idea. And the big thing with this is, if you are a booktuber or a book blogger or someone with a platform and you would like to get indie arcs for review, you have to make sure to actually review them. It is a big deal, because if an indie author sends you even an e-arc, but especially a physical arc, that's money out of their own pocket. There's not some big daddy publisher paying for that cost. It's all on them. And you really need to make sure that it is worth their time to send you something by making sure you actually put that into the world eventually. In general, though, this is also a great avenue if you just want to know more about indie publishing in general. This is mostly self-publishing, although you can get indie presses there. Me, in general, I read more self-published novels than indie press published novels. And I didn't try to, that's just kind of how it happened. But this is the best way to get into the community, and I would highly suggest it. I have made so many friends from this community, even though I'm not actually an indie author, but just an indie reader and reviewer is enough to get me all of the retweets. Seriously, every time I have posted using the indie August hashtag this month, it never gets under like 20 likes. And it's awesome. But that's for that one. The second one is actually how I got into reading indie books, and it was completely accidental. And this is probably the best way to get into it if you kind of want to be lazy about it. And it is called BookBub. BookBub is a daily email service giving you deals on ebooks. And it's not specifically for indie books. It is for both indie and traditional. However, I found most of my indie books on there, and it's really easy to spot them because they're usually the only ones that are offered for free. So how this works is you go to bookbub.com, I'll have the link in the description, and you basically fill out a little profile and you put what kind of genres you like, what kind of formats you read in. If you read in a Kindle or a Nook or something else, there's a couple of options, and they will send you daily deals for ebooks. And all you have to do is check your email once a day, skim through, see which of the little blurbs look interesting. Now, you can actually get some pretty big traditional books off of here as well. Like I've seen like Sarah J. Maas books for like $3 in ebook form from this service. So it's actually pretty sweet. But you can pretty much be guaranteed if you see the word free on the little blurb, it's a self-published book. Now, this does not mean that book is bad. In fact, some of my all-time favorite indie books have come as a result of BookBub. If you have heard me talk about Lindsay Buroker's Fallen Empire series, I first found the first one of that for free on BookBub. Our Bloody Pearl by D.N. Bryn, the book that I raved about in my first recommending indie books to booktubers video. Love that one. That also came off of BookBub. For the most part, if you get a free indie book off BookBub, it will usually be the first in the series. The idea being that you read that one, like it, and then continue to purchase the continuation of the series. So it's actually a pretty smart business move, especially if you are an indie author just coming out of the gate. Also, sometimes if you're really, really on it with that indie author tag on Twitter, you can catch some free giveaways for, Kindle or, no, mostly Kindle. For special events and that kind of thing. I recently managed to nab a poetry book, a sapphic poetry book that I really wanted for free just by keeping tabs on the author on Twitter, mostly because we're basically spiritually married now because we both love E.B. Callahan from The Mummy. But that's neither here nor there. So BookBub is the best if you just want to be lazy and you just want to kind of stumble across indie ebooks. And fun fact, you can get indie ebook apps on your phone, so it should be fairly easy to get them for free and read them being lazy. Like, you can read the book with one hand. It's awesome. It lights up so you can read it in bed. I've been out to friends reading the Fallen Empire series low-key on the table while everyone else was eating. So it's a lot of ebooks, and it's mostly ebooks. But even then, physical copies of indie books aren't really that expensive. I've gotten 400-page indie books for $15. It's really not that much. It's cheaper than traditional books. The only downside is that there's not quite the sheer amount of library space to get them for free. But we're working on it, a little bit at a time. The third and final avenue is narcissistic, because it's me. I have made indie books a huge facet of my channel in more ways than one, and I'm trying with everything in me to kind of become a one-stop shop resource for getting into the community. Now, of course, I am not the only one. I know that Pints and Paperbacks has recently begun a indie author spotlight, and we've talked about maybe doing an indie-esque collab. Unicorn Hunter is also another one that's done some indie books. Even Chandler Ainsley has done, she reads a lot of indie romances. I know that one. She's done videos. So I'm not saying that I'm the only resource for BookTube, but if you're new here, I would highly suggest subscribing if you want to get into it, because it's basically all I do for the most part. Indie August is going to be filled with reviews. I've already put one out this month, and other indie-esque videos. I make it a big point to try to include at least 2 or 3 indie books in any readathon I do. So pretty much in any monthly wrap-up that you'll watch of mine, you'll get at least a third of it will be indie books. I'm also making an indie authors list, which as of right now is stagnant because I keep forgetting to add names. But regardless, this is an Excel spreadsheet that I will also put the link to down below of pretty much indie author names, the genres they work in, or the demographics they represent. For example, own voices, LGBT, and a link to their work as a whole, or as close as I could get to a link to their work as a whole. If it's their website or their Amazon author page, it is to some extent their work that you can get into there. And that's the easiest for not having to interact with people. If you specifically want sci-fi, but you don't want to interact with anyone, and you really don't want to sit around and wait for me to upload a video about indie sci-fi, you can go look there and just use, Control F search function and find what authors are writing in what genres and check out their work there. If you are interested in helping me update that, let me know, because I really it has been a chore. I just do not seem to have the time to research and upload anymore. So it's still sitting around 450 names. And my goal was to get it to 1,000 by the end of this year. And I don't know if that's happening. So that is ongoing. That's something you can check back regularly. If you're an indie author watching this, feel free to check if your name is on there. Please check if your name is on there before telling me I need to add it, because that's happened a bit. And like I said, it takes a lot of time to keep it updated. But beyond that, that is my beginner's guide to reading indie. I hope you found it useful. If you have any more questions, please leave them in the comments down below, or DM me on Twitter, or no, just Twitter. Instagram DMs are weird. But regardless, I hope this has inspired you to get into it. I hope that even if you already are reading indie books, you found some other avenues. Really want more people to join the indie author community on Twitter. It's just so much fun. If you are an indie author and you're looking for a review, please email me. I'll have my email in the description, along with a ton of other things at this point. And be sure to read my review policy before sending the email, just to keep everything on the up and up. And with nothing else to say, I hope you have a wonderful day and a marvelous tomorrow.